Hello, and we welcome you to the latest edition of Flashback. Some of it a great chance to have a look at some of the key moments in N.E.W's history, and we're going to go way back to a feud between the now tag team partners Troy Webster and Bart Brute. The first time they teamed together as the Trailblazers, it all ended in tears. Of course, the first ever N.E.W tag team champions. You have a lot of memories about this one, Erwin.
Well, yeah, I mean, many were sad to see that the Trailblazers had ended up turning on each other, but this was, of course, a big shooting for Bart Brute. I mean, he'd end up hopping from team to team and then finally go out on his own.
I forgot Bart had that moustache. It's fantastic.
Moustache, I must admit.
Troy Webster looks exactly the same.
Of course, that last flashback showed us exactly what happened. Bit of miscommunication in that match against the Los Luchadores cost them those tag team titles.
And of course that was the first reign of the now historic 5 championship reigns of Los Luchadores, the most successful tag team in N.E.W history. Well, the Trailblazers did it first and now back together, and of course have both experienced some success in their singles career, primarily Troy Webster, who is now I believe a 3-time world champion. Bart Brute, excuse me, Bart Brute, tremendous world champion in his own right now. Of course, Troy Webster still looking for the big one, but these guys now back a team.
Both of these have certainly settled their differences.
I'm wondering if that tag team
it has to be said, they're both on the same page again, and that's for the better. But
for now, the real tag team
this match certainly shows you where they're at in their mindset at this point in their career.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Bart Brute had always believed that he was more than the mid-carder, which he's been thought of for the majority of his career, and I think this was the first attempt for Bart to try and get from beneath Troy's shadow, because I think, believe it or not, folks, when these two guys first came into N.E.W, I think a lot of people thought that Troy was going to be the guy that skyrocketed and Bart Brute was going to kind of be the sidekick. It didn't quite work out that way.
Certainly did not. Troy Webster,
I'm not sure he actually knew
again, would be
happened.
someone who'd float in the mid-card for quite some time before finally making an impact once again.
Could you argue it was the same impact that the prize fighter has made, though? Bart Brute, unquestionable success as a singles wrestler. I mean, you could argue, Erwin, that Troy Webster needs Bart Brute more than Bart Brute needs Troy Webster.
Certainly could be argued. Again, just this rivalry that had ensued between these two at this time. It's weird to look back on now, knowing that they are quite friendly with each other.
Where was this? Where was this? Where did this match take place? I didn't catch the location, I'm afraid, when the match kicked off.
I think somewhere in San Diego, California, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
maybe wrong on that one.
Hard elbow by Webster there, right to the heart of Bart Brute, and this one's starting to get a little bit ugly. Oof. And of course, we thank you once again for joining us for Flashback. This look back of all the old school matches that made N.E.W what it is today.
These special little
get disqualified for it, but it will give us a
once a month when we're not doing free extended events, these little chats we're having about the past, of course.
So far
apparently Flashback has been given a go for season 2, however there's going to be a slight change in the programme. We're actually going to get the words straight from the horse's mouth from the future. The wrestlers involved in the match are going to talk about it, so that's going to be very interesting.
And of course, in the later show matches as well, when we're calling them, I think the general plan is just to let the call happen.
Yeah, commentary again.
Unless, of course, it was shocking and then we may redo it, which is always a possibility.
It's a definite possibility here in N.E.W.
Oh, good lord!
This viciousness of Bart Brute finally coming out of him.
Well, it is that sheer aggression, Erwin, that has made Bart Brute one of the top competitors in N.E.W today. They don't call him the prize fighter for nothing. I mean, considered to have one of the purest right hands in the business today.
Wrong place, wrong time, kind of.
It was his call to have this match. He was the one who threw this challenge Webster still trying to respond.
I mean, we've seen that from time to time with teams throughout the ages in pro wrestling. You know, which one is better? I mean, there's two guys there, both want to be successful, both have egos.
Yeah,
and
some of them don't need that answer, but there are some that desperately need that answer to find their leadership.
Yeah, I think it happens in most teams. I mean, you look at some of the great tag teams in the history of pro wrestling, and I would say the vast majority of them at some point have logged heads. It's very rare that you get a team, you know, that stay loyal to each other throughout their entire tenure. At some point, inevitably, egos will collide. It's exactly what we're seeing here tonight.
Oof! Nice elbow drop with being a tag team for so long.
Webster looking to...
I mean, even Webster with the cover here. Very close to indeed on Bart Brute, who's taking a bit of a ground and pound here from Webster.
And again, I think at this stage in the game they were very evenly matched.
Look at that, he's cranking.
Webster hasn't gone back to that boxing approach.
Well,
very much in his wrestling phase, if you will. I mean, he still carries very much those wrestling attributes. He's toned down a bit.
I think Webster plays to his strengths more nowadays. I think this hammerlock here, this is not Troy Webster's forte. He is a power guy. I mean, with all due respect to Troy Webster, I think Bart Brute is probably the better technical wrestler.
At this point in time, Bart Brute was essentially pointing all the blame at Troy Webster for the failings of the Trailblazers.
It's nice to see those guys have resolved those issues. I mean, it'd be great to see the Trailblazers get another run at the N.E.W. Tag Team Championships, but of course that means dethroning the current champions, Magnum Opus, who have to be one of the most in-sync units we've seen in N.E.W. in a number of years, Owen.
Yeah, you've got to wonder if we find a contender before, or if we'll have to wait till New Year.
Let's remember they already hold their longest single reign, the tag team titles in the N.E.W.'s history. That is quite the achievement. I'm sure the Trailblazers wouldn't mind trying to beat that record.
Yeah, managing to break Los Luchadores single and overall runs.
Trying to get back to his feet.
Troy Webster and Bart Brute now just trying to sound each other out as this match continues. I mean, 90% of it has took part in that ring, and it's been nothing pretty. It's been pretty ugly, to be totally honest with you. I mean,
those spiking DDTs would follow Troy Webster for a lot of his career. Utilise those with great effectiveness. Well, but this is something you don't see much from him anymore.
Oh, great splash. Maybe Webster should bring that one back. What a great little splash that was. Bart Brute is in a serious amount of trouble here.
Into the Superfly, but
I mean, well, talk to me about like the feelings about backstage about this one, Owen. I mean, these two guys obviously tag team partners until this point in their careers, and now beating the snot out of each other. I know this is the early days of N.E.W., so a lot of these guys were joined at the hip. I mean, what was the feeling backstage about seeing Troy Webster and Bart Brute go one-on-one?
A lot, including myself, weren't happy that it had to come to this, and so suddenly and viciously as it did. However, many of us knew that this would be the catalyst. The winner of this matchup would be someone who would essentially have a chance to make a name for themselves here in N.E.W. Bart Brute arguably did that.
You could argue, of course, as well, in these early stages of the company, that's exactly what everyone was trying to do, make a name for themselves. Webster with the count here. When it's a close one. But Bart Brute gets his shoulder up again before the three. And once again, let's just take a look at how young Mike Shatopa looks. Look at that. He's still got black hair and everything. So one thing about Flashback,
those stutters in the motion there, you see the quality of the live stream, which is why we have become a scheduled release system with our releasing of Brawl and such, is to bring you a better quality.
What a hard backdrop there by Troy Webster. Bart Brute in a whole world of trouble now. Going for a pin here. Shatopa's down. 2. No! Close but no cigar.
With it being our last flashback of the year, this is a great chance to kind of talk openly as we do over these things. I mean, whoever wants to look it up already knows the result and the things that happen. They can even watch this match with the terrible commentary that was on it at the time, if they choose to do so.
But of course, I mean, just think about it. I mean, what's coming, Erwin? I mean,
Well, that
in
was
the-
exactly
in
what
the-
I was going
yeah,
to say.
in
I
the
mean,
near future.
we've got New Year coming up to finish off the year, and I've already heard so many things that Nathan Goldman wants to pull out of the bag after
do
New
believe that was
Year. I
above
mean,
the belt.
BWI is going to be a
Problems
big
may
thing,
arise if it
a
wasn't.
big change up to what we're seeing
Nice
on the
slam there
N.E.W.
from Brute.
YouTube.
Catching
Yeah, I
the
mean,
flag
this is
again.
Nathan Goldman's own creation,
Oh,
maybe. I
wow.
mean, I think, you know, possibly wanting to try and get out from the shadow of his old man a little bit
Well, yeah,
there.
basically getting to play with Daddy's toy here and see
Kinda
what he
says
can
to
do
me
with it.
Brute's
And I
gonna
think
have to
he's
do a lot
pulled it back
more
for the
to
better. Of
him
course,
than he
this
had
was
to
back
do
at a
to
time when the
than Troy's
mysterious
had to do
booking
to him
committee
so
were
far.
running things.
Yeah, this is big. I mean,
Well,
Adrian
that's
Goldman,
true.
our
I
current
mean,
CEO, chairman of the board, was probably
Can
still an
even
active
try
wrestler
Webster's
at this
He
knowledge.
point.
certainly
Advantage,
was.
so
I
it's
mean,
gonna
heading
take Brute a lot more
toward
to
the
catch
World
up now.
Championship, in
That's
fact,
what I'm trying to say.
as
I'm not
well
trying
as
to
the
say
tag
that
team
Brute is
titles with TMDC.
Please don't
That
call
would be
me
their
Neil.
next goals. Meanwhile, this beloved team was breaking
Oh,
down.
Where's that kick
yeah, word.
again? He got
Kick
it.
that was.
I mean, we see Bart Brute refine those kicks and
Dragon runners
strikes
out.
throughout his career.
Working the
I'm
right
pretty sure I was in
position.
Japan when this match happened. Oh! I really can't
Oh,
remember.
kicks out. That time it
How long
wasn't
ago
him.
was this?
This was back in 2015.
Oh yeah, definitely in Japan. I think I was in
Of course, even
Tokyo.
I'm still an
Oh,
active
stumps
wrestler
the
with
arm.
more, putting my body ridiculously on the line night after night,
I'm pretty sure I was
needlessly.
very drunk in a sake bar for the majority of
That was a kick
2015.
from Brute.
Vicious kick there by Bart Brute.
Could that be
That could
all?
be an end to this match and this flashback.
There it
It
is.
is
It
indeed.
is.
Bart Brute with that
Bertrand
vicious
wins
kick to the
this.
midsection seemed to be enough to keep Webster down for free, and that was a tantalising
If that's it
message for
these
things
two,
to come. Bart Brute, who would
is every
admittedly
bit
spend a year or
sensible.
two more floating around as a mid-carder, but finally became the prize fighter we all know and respect today. Troy Webster at this point in his career still finding the final piece of the puzzle.
But the prize fighter and the pugilist are back together. Thank you for joining us for another flashback.
Both these men did put up quite a fight. Whilst we're showing this replay, they are shaking hands in the ring, so that to me says that this group is still together. Webber's leaving Brute to celebrate here. I mean, really for this replay, some incredible moves. Couldn't do that to each other. Still play pretty civilly. Not going to the outside with weapons or anything like that. No real dirty moves, I wouldn't have said. Gonzalez brothers might want to watch out. The Bruisers could be coming back for their championship sometime soon. Bertrand Brute here, the winner.